Good day. My name is David Gamble, and I'm a retired high school teacher of some 50 years, having taught mostly English, some history, and a few other things. My object today is to give you a fairly comprehensive analysis of the play as a whole that would serve the purposes of a student, a senior high school student, or beginning undergrad university student in the area. A beginning teacher, I think, might find these of some use, or also someone who's just going to the theater and wishes to enhance the value of the ticket. So to go on, Macbeth is a tragedy of not merely ambition, but rather of imagination, in which the power of fantasy bathes the protagonist and the audience in a phantasmagoria of blood leading to nihilism, and that's the direction. So initially, the audience might resist identifying with this hero because of the horrors presented to him or her. But rather, as the psychological drama increases, we do identify with this man who suffers terribly, and perhaps he captures our empathy in some way, towards the end, when he, to some small extent, redeems himself, and therefore producing what the ancients call the catharsis of emotions. My God, what did I just see? But we do share with him his fantasies. They are so vivid. So it may say something about us. So, and Macbeth has the power to show our own potential for active evil, as this protagonist carries the spectator from the pinnacle of prestige to the nadir of nothingness. By the final catastrophe, Macbeth forfeits our admiration for him, but he retains our entrapped sympathy. So we end up somewhere, as catharsis would have it, somewhere between pity and horror. So I will focus primarily at the very beginning on the first act quite thoroughly so that you can pick up the threads then that are developed on the way through. And once you have those keynotes, if you will, on the vocabulary of that which is developed throughout, you can follow along on your own. You will see that there's an interweaving like threads in a tapestry that make a pattern to the end. Very dark. We also have the background of the medieval chain of being, right, where the hero challenges God's order. And God's order, and I will hold something up, I hope you can see it. God's order, now how can I do this? You see, God is at the top. I'll bring that down a little. God is at the top. And reality is, oh, I see it's reversed, but is the pyramid. It's pyramidal. Angels at the top, more perfect, closer to God. Humanity, then animal, then plant, then minerals. So that in each one of these, there is a similar pyramid with the king at the top, then the royal family, then the nobles, aristocracy, nobles, freemen, and then serfs, and the human element. When Macbeth cuts off the king, there is a block then. There's a stoppage. God's grace and light cannot come down. It's stopped. With the divine right of kings, the anointed is gone. And that allows the dark forces to rise. And you will see that with the witches, with his imagination, and with his activity, which is quite thorough and bloody. That is the medieval chain of being. And the play also is a Renaissance tragedy. So that with humanism, you get the psychological drama as well, which you would not have had with the play, for example, in medieval times, as with Everyman. Straight binary code, good, evil, the drama of the guy caught between. So this is a sacrilegious evil, a sacrilegious act to kill the king. As he says, he can't call on the gods above to help him in his agency. He has to call on the forces from below, bodily material, where the material will replace the sacred. I am settled, he says in Act 1, Scene 7. I am settled and bend up each corporal agent to this terrible feat. Away and mock the time with fairest show. False face must hide what the false heart doth know. He can't look at his conscience. He can't look at the act. False face must hide, present that to the outside world. And each corporal agent, it is bodily and material. It's physical only. There's despiritualized action. So we follow him downward to his spiritual nadir through the growing phantasmagoria born of his own imagination. So Macbeth invokes bodily material agents to assist his action and not the grace of God. The grace of God is dismissed, but first of all, by an act of will and by ignoring his conscience, and then by the act itself. Something else to notice in the first act is the motifs of ambiguity and equivocation, speaking of opposites equally. And that starts the play off right away. You're given that little gem, and it continues all the way through until the very end when he comes to some self-realization. There is a reverberation, too, of witchcraft. Of course, the three witches bring that on. Now, are they just old hags following the military battles around and picking up the jewelry and the rings from the dead court? Are they that? Or are they also reminiscent of what the Viking called the three Norns, which were the three sisters of fate, somewhat like the classical characters who are the three sisters of fate, spinning the thread, running it out, and then cutting it off. There, the number three then does relate to demonology, and also in the English background through Viking, and also the classical coming through in the Renaissance. And these weird sisters open the play with fair is foul, foul is fair. There is no reality, and to them it is amorphous, it is uncertain, it is ambiguous, it is equivocal. Fair is foul, as foul is fair. And in one scene, Act 1, Scene 3, Macbeth walks in and says, "So foul and fair a day I have not seen." Echo, 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 and again you'll follow it. This equal speaking goes right the way through. Also in the opening scene, hover through the fog and filthy air. There is a dimness, if you like, a grayness to the atmosphere. The sun is not shining. So the imagery is paired by opposites. They are also they are on this blasted heath later on in Act 1, Scene 3, which is a rather hellish overtone. Everything is blasted. Think of a blast furnace. The heat just scorches everything. You have the patterns here of blood, sleep, harvest and growth, animal, light and dark, clothing, gender. All of these, again, form the threads through the fabric to make the tapestry. An examination of all in each case would be far too lengthy, so that it will sort of tip you off and you follow them through the text. So chaos, confusion, and mayhem follow in Act 1, Scene 2, with the impending destruction of the kingdom by violent rebellion. That King Duncan is in danger. He is going to be removed, and the rebels are going to take over. So we have images of blood. What bloody man is that? Is one of the lines. Storms, rebellion, and war, and overheated. It's an overheated broil, even suggesting cauldron bubble at the end. Paint an image of the rightful order of the kingdom being destroyed. Again, to cut the king off is to leave that which is below the king and that empty space open to the dark forces. Scotland is under rebellious siege by a traitorous nobleman, the first Thane of Cawdor, on whom Duncan had built an absolute trust. Ironic, Macbeth inherits the Thane of Cawdor, and he too becomes the rebel who does in fact end the reign of Duncan. However, from the heat of this bloody struggle, saving the day, emerged two characters, at this point brothers in arms, Macbeth and Banquo, who are often called Bellona's bridegroom, goddess of war. Our valiant cousin. They are celebrated as the heroes of the rightful order. The play is a deeply psychological play. It is, and here you have, I'll try this one close, and that says king, royal family, the aristocracy, nobles, freemen, and serfs, right? And you have, so that is the established order and must be retained. That is the medieval chain of being, and they still lived it. Remember, the divine right of kings put the king at the top, protected by God. So the play is a deeply psychological biography. It's not just about the feudal order, from a good man's fall to sin, from the pinnacle of rightfulness. Act 1, Scene 2 attests purposefully to the virtue and prowess of Banquo and Macbeth, with epithets such as brave Macbeth, well, he deserves that name, and valorous minion. And they talk about you memorize another Golgotha, makes it sacred. The place of the crucifixion, that most sacred place, as he triumphed in his essentially moral battle for Duncan, as Christ would have triumphed, does triumph over death. So the report goes this way. Because Macbeth and Banquo have behaved so bravely and beat the rebels back, they were faced with enormous odds. And the noble asks, dismayed not this, or the king asks rather, dismayed not this our captains Macbeth and Banquo? And the ironic answer is this, he flips it. Yes, they were dismayed as sparrows eagles, or the hare the lion. Well, eagles are not dismayed by sparrows. The lion is not dismayed by a hare. So no, Macbeth and Banquo were not dismayed by these rebels. Right? So the natural order, and this is another motif through the play, the natural order, which I just showed you metaphysically, is not dismayed, is not destroyed, is not harmed. All is in its rightful place with the king at the top. Macbeth and Banquo preserve the sacred kingship and the kinship amongst others and the rightful places. So to understand the cosmic order, you set this as a kind of a platform on which the play rests. In Act 1, Scene 3, we reconnect with the witches as they confront the heroes. There are four main points in this scene, which I would like to bring out in detail. First, the preternatural qualities of the witches, so necessary for the end of the play when Macbeth goes to see them once again. Their equivocal association with Macbeth is established very early. Second, the temptations make the moral differences of the heroes very clear. So watch the difference in Macbeth and Banquo. We are set up here with protagonist, antagonist. The protagonist, the first combatant, if you translate, the first combatant, of course, is Macbeth. The antagonist initially is Banquo, the moral man. The second antagonist will be Macduff, the strong, valiant man. Macbeth, of course, destroys the moral opposition, but the strong, valiant, he doesn't. So these are set up very early. The interior struggle of the protagonist is essential, and we get it on the way through his asides and soliloquies, the tortured imagination, the fight with his conscience, and the defeat of conscience, and his incredible imagination of turning seas totally blood red with the king's washing of the king's blood off his hands. And also within that scene, we see the limitation of the witches, and that's very, very important. So there is a lugubrious atmosphere, of course, with the witches. The witches are eerie and equivocal. We must see Banquo at the very beginning, at the outset, tells us how how unnatural, how in opposition to good natural order these women are. What are these, he says, so withered and so wild in their attire that look not like the inhabitants of the earth, and yet are on't? Live you? Or are you aught that man may question? You seem to understand me, by each one at once, her choppy finger laying upon her skinny lips. You should be women, and yet your beards forbid me to interpret that you are so. So again, equivocal gender, which will come up later with Lady Macbeth. None of these, not of the earth, are these bearded women, it would seem. Unnatural, gender ambiguous, foreshadowing Lady Macbeth's regendering her role. Come, you murdering the tent on mortal thoughts, unsex me here. She wants to be more masculine, and that in the Winter's Tale, you get Paulina, the good woman, referred to as a mankind witch. This gender transfer was considered to be perhaps demonic. These weird sisters are tainting these entities with the supernatural. For, by the way, the word weird comes from Old Norse, meaning fate. Are they the fates? In Act 1, Scene 3, the sisters advance the plot by making predictions of advancement for the two men. Macbeth will be Cawdor and king. Banquo, the father of kings, the line of kings. Each is tempted. Each reacts differently, thereby beginning the fatal antagonism between the two that will play throughout Macbeth's being named Cawdor and king thereafter infects him with ambition. Banquo pauses to think and values reason. Reason is connected to the natural order, which I've just showed you, that chain of being, and virtue. The differences are established immediately, using Banquo as a foil. Macbeth's interior self emerges in his asides when he says, Glamis and Thane of Cawdor, the greatest is behind, thinking of the king part. And later, being shaken to his core in speculation, he says, Why do I yield to that suggestion, whose horrid image doth unfix my hair, and make my seated heart knock at my ribs, against the use of nature, again nature. Present fears are less than horrible imaginings. My thought, whose murder is yet but fantastical, shakes so my single state of man, that function is smothered in surmise. He can't act, his imagination has him in control, and nothing is but what is not. Now, the word nothing is significant. We get to a kind of nihilism by the end of the play. If you remember, he uses the word nothing in that last. 'Tis a tale told by an idiot, signifying nothing, and that's where he ends up. He's warned. He knows the depth of the impending transgression. He's been shaken enough. Function is smothered in surmise. His awareness of nothingness predicts his end. As I've said, tale told by an idiot, full of sound and fury, signifying nothing. The nihilism will grow throughout the play with both parties. Banquo, by contrast, he must have been considering the option earlier, as will be developed closer to the play. But he says to Macbeth, have we eaten on the insane route that takes the reason, you're going to lose your reason, takes the reason prisoner? While Macbeth's function is smothered. They're deliberately parallel, because we're now setting up the antagonism between the two. The safeguarding of reason is for Banquo a matter of conscience. And there begins the moral division between Banquo and Macbeth. Tempted equally, they go in different directions. As any man can be tempted to sin, the comparison of these two reveals fundamentally divergent responses of conscience for one and ego for the other. Conscience for one and ego or the imagination for the other. And he says to Banquo, Do you not hope your children will be kings when those that gave me the Thane of Cawdor promised no less to them? How come you're not so tempted? Aren't you like me? Banquo warns him. You can't excuse him. He's been warned from his own conscience and horror, but also from his antagonist. But 'tis strange, and oftentimes to win us to our harm, these instruments of darkness tell us truths, win us with honest trifles, but to betray us in deepest consequence, and he is betrayed by his own thoughts. Macbeth responds neutrally, early, privately. Come what come may, time and the hour runs through the roughest day. I'll leave it to fates. He would leave it to time. Okay, that's fine. For now. The witches. They tell us that this is not a classical tragedy. Shakespeare tells us. For in classical tragedy, as Oedipus, for example, gets the edict from the fates, this is what's going to happen, but he fights against it, even though it cannot be reversed. He has no choice, and he is condemned and destroyed. In Christian culture, you cannot be destroyed, go to hell, if you didn't choose it. It's an act of will that you chose the wrong thing right out of the Garden of Eden, right, with Adam's choice. So that the witches actually tell us that in a metaphor. His fate is not sealed by them. In Act 1c3, the chatter amongst them reveals the limits of their powers. Having been refused a chestnut by a rump-fed runyon, she calls her, of a sailor, she plots revenge, this witch. She has the power to plague the hapless victim, but she can't kill him. She plots. A sailor's wife had chestnuts in her lap. She munched and munched and munched. Give me, quoth I, the rump-fed runyon, and the rump-fed runyon cries, Aroint thee, witch, buzz off. Her master's to Aleppo gone, master of the tiger. But in a sieve all thither sail, and like a rat without a tail. A sieve, you don't sail in sieves, and the rat do have tails, so you've got this contradiction going on. But in a sieve I'll thither sail, and like a rat without a tail, I'll do, and I'll do. I'll drain him dry as hay, sleep shall neither night nor day hang upon his penthouse lid. He shall live a man forbid. Weary Senites 9 times 9, shall he dwindle peak and pine? Though his bark cannot be lost, yet it shall be tempest-tossed. His bark cannot be lost. I can't drown him. I can't kill Macbeth. I can't send his soul to hell. He has to do that last bit himself. I can only set it up, as she says. So she will notice what she does to the sailor. She will dehydrate him and curse him with insomnia. This begins the sleep motif, which runs throughout the play. A significant motif applied to the play. However, the sailor boat can't be sunk. She can't kill him. The limit of the witches is established early. So sleep, it's impossible. As we get in Act 2, Scene 1, Banquo says, a heavy summons lies like lead upon me, and yet I would not sleep. Merciful powers, restrain in me the cursed thoughts that nature gives way to in repose. The sleeplessness. And that will affect the whole kingdom. We'll see that later. I'll draw the reference. Darkness will envelop as he speaks this apprehensively in a starless night. Darkness will swallow sky. All the scenes are in darkness. This should tip, even if it's daytime, the night strangles the traveling lamp. In the daytime, it should be day. We'll get to that later. This should tip off the audience that sleeplessness with darkness will deepen. In this scene, framed by the protagonist and antagonist, Macbeth echoes, nature seems dead, and wicked dreams abuse the curtained sleep. thereby uniting death of nature and tormented sleep. Sleep is natural. You can't sleep, it's not natural. Again, death of nature. The agonies are gross. Immediately following the murder, Macbeth in terror quakes that insomnia will destroy sleep's medicine, something that he can never again benefit from. The speech is predictive. Macbeth, this is a famous speech about sleep, by the way. Macbeth doth murder sleep, the innocent sleep, sleep that knits up the ravelled sleeve of care, the death of each day's life, sore labour's bath, balm of hurt minds, great nature's second course, chief nourisher in life's feast. He's cursed himself. And as the Lord says later in Act 3, Scene 6, what's happened to the whole country? He informs us, wishing that we may again give sleep to our nights. The country can't sleep. It infects. And remember that if the trouble is at the top, it's all trickle-down theory in this feudal realm. From the king, all emanates. It doesn't go up. It's not democratic. Everything comes down. And so the king, Macbeth can't sleep. The nobles can't sleep. The country now would like to have sleep in their nights. So the infection is ubiquitous. Observing Lady Macbeth sleepwalking as she gropes her way around also in her sleep, the doctor says, a great perturbation in nature to receive at once the benefit of sleep and do the effects of watching. Equivocal sleep, waking, sleep, waking. The whole thing is messed up. And he says, unnatural deeds do unnatural troubles. Infected minds to their deaf pillows will discharge their secrets, as she is talking to her sleep. So back to Act 1, Scene 4. All right, where Duncan has arrived. And he, after Macbeth has said, in Act 1, Scene 3, if chance will have me king, why chance may crown me without my stir, going to let it to rest, and then Duncan in Act 1, Scene 4 blows that patience out of the water when he says, I will name Malcolm my son as Prince of Cumberland. That's the heir. Steps in the way between Macbeth and his imaginings. Macbeth says, the Prince of Cumberland, that is a step on which I must fall down or else o'erleap, for in my way it lies. Stars, again darkness, hide your fires. Let not light see my black and deep desires. The eye winketh the hand, yet let that be which the eye fears when it is done to see. I don't want to see myself doing. Just let me see the results. That's conscience eradicated. Darkness, ever-present motif. But he knows how evil it is. And in his soliloquy, when 'tis done, if 'twere were done, when 'tis done, then 'twere well overdone quickly. If the assassination could trammel up the consequence, he knows the virtue of the man he's killing. Besides, he says, and this is in contrast now to his darkening soul that we see, besides this Duncan hath borne his faculties so meek, hath been so clear in his great office, that his virtues will plead like angels, trumpet-tongued, against the deep damnation of his taking off, and pity like a naked newborn babe, striding the blast, or heaven's cherubims, horsed upon the sightless couriers of the air, shall blow the horrid deed in every eye, that tears shall drown the wind. Now, that's more than just poetic hyperbole. This is the phantasmagoria of Macbeth's imagination. We are seeing into the mind. It is out of control, his imagination. It's just not strikingly strong poetry. Shakespeare's not just being rhetorical. He's showing you the inner workings of Macbeth's mind. So, at the end, lighted nature will be extinguished at the climax, the regicide. While the opposing images in the drama carry the combat, Hollinson's recorded history portrays Duncan actually as a rather weak king, and Macbeth as a rather strong and adept administrator. However, here we have the play written in 1606. When James I, who was first cousin twice removed to Elizabeth, uh, uh, ascends the throne in 1603, in 3 months he had renamed Shakespeare's group from Lord Chamberlain's men to the King's men. This man was no dummy. He had written books and he appreciated. So there's going to be a loyalty between Shakespeare's company and the king. So in 1605, you have the Gunpowder Plot, which, by quick reference, in November 4th, I think, is an attempt on the House of Lords, and the king would be there, and boom, he'd be gone as one Scottish, he'd send those Scottish so-and-sos back to Scotland where they belong. So, and it's a Catholic revolution. They get caught, and they are all executed. 1606, that's 1605, 1606, Macbeth writes the play. So what do you have here? The horror of assassination, which almost just happened, depicted in this amazing play with the mind exposed and the horror of the product against the chain of being. And James would be watching this thinking, that's right. I am the good king. I am like Duncan. Not Macbeth, but rather Shakespeare knew exactly where his bread was buttered. So, so Duncan visits Macbeth's home, Glamis Castle. The thematic moral opposition is presented in atmosphere. So when he comes in, it is a beautiful sunny day. The wind is soft and gentle, and he says, blessed by peace and security, ironically at Glamis, when they're already planning his demise, the king waxes poetically, admiring the castle with its pleasant seat, where the air is nimble and sweet. As Banquo observes, the birds are procreant. The birds are giving birth or hatching their eggs, and all is wonderful. This is also a direct contrast to what we've seen before. And the servants are in attendance. This happy rhetoric fixes the immaculate image of Duncan in striking contrast to the witch's repulsiveness and Macbeth's increasingly fetid imagination. Both connected. Macbeth, by the way, is absent for that scene. He can't face. And Lady Macbeth comes out, and she's cooingly, sycophantic and saying all the right things. And it's all ritual because it's all the higher orders of the establishment of the feudal order. And she's saying the right things. And she says cooingly in public, she says, all our service in every point twice done, and then double where poor and single business. Well, the action will be double. And there you have that doubling again, that equivocation. It really echoes the witch's chant, double, double, toil and trouble. She had double, double, toil and trouble getting ready, and it is double. So the audience knows she's playing a double game. For in the scene before, she has had the letter from Macbeth and she's asked the murdering messengers to unsex her and done all that. So we know how fake she is, and has left Act 1, Scene 5 saying, oh, never shall sun that morrow see. And here she is falling all over him. And so the dramatic tension is apparent. It's there, right? And ironically, when Duncan has heard about the first Cawdor, he says, there's no art to find the mind's construction in the face. He was a gentleman upon whom I built an absolute trust. Cawdor, right, has been the traitor. Macbeth, the new Cawdor, will be a traitor, as he says in Act 1, Scene 7, false face must hide, but the false heart doth know. Echoing, there's no art to find the mind's construction in the face. The ironies are to give dramatic tension. So Duncan's joyous scene of restitution is framed by the self-revealing evil of Lady Macbeth and Macbeth. Right? It's the sandwich meat. To go on. You get your beards to the witches. Your beards forbid me to interpret that you are so. You get that misgendering, degendering, regendering going on with Lady Macbeth, which I mentioned before very early. She accuses Macbeth of being feminine. And in those days, to accuse the Scottish lad, the Thane, of being that would bother him. Only a domineering wife could get away with it, I'm sure. She plans to remake Macbeth into a sociopathic actor, for he is too full of the milk of human kindness to catch the nearest way, too feminine a quality. Thus, it begins a famous gender battle where gender is reversed. According to the Times, the woman's nature was passive, the man was the boss. It is reversed at the beginning. Macbeth starts low. She, with her desexing, starts high. You will watch, which way am I going here? They will cross. And she will end up low. And he will end up the dominant of the two, with more to be said about it later. And she says she wants manhood. Come, you spirits that tend on mortal thoughts, unsex me here, make me and fill me from the crown to the toe, top full of direst cruelty. Come to my woman's breast and take my milk for gall. You murdering ministers, wherever in your sightless substances you wait on nature's mischief. Come, thick night, and pall thee in the dun smoke of hell, that my keen knife see not the wound it makes, nor heaven peep through the blanket of the dark to cry, hold, hold. She abjures heaven and calls on the murdering ministers. You see, she wants those evil agencies to come up. And once she's got the king out of the way, this world will be hers. So these inversions of nature, the defeminization, all come together. And Macbeth, of course, would live a coward in his own esteem, letting I dare not wait upon I would. She gets them. They will challenge the hierarchy. It will be gone. She rejects her own biological gender for the masculine daring do, for action makes manliness, and he just better get around to it. Who is this woman? Who is this man? As I said, he starts low, ends up the boss. She starts high, ends up really in nihilism, as nothing. Before the murder of Banquo, just to show the crisscross in the middle of the play, before the murder of Banquo, she asks what he says there's going to be a important event. She says what is to be done, and he says he dismisses her with a pet name, Chuck, like Poopsie, dearie, little dear. He dismisses her with a pet name, Chuck, and then echoes her invocation of Dark Night from Act 1, Scene 5 to hide his next horror. He says to her, this is 3, Scene 2, line 45, be innocent of the knowledge, dearest Chuck, till thou applaud the deed. Come, sealing night, echoes her. He's learned from her, he's taken from her. Scarf up the tender eye of pitiful day, and with thy bloody and invisible hand, cancel and tear to pieces that great bond that keeps me pale. Light thickens, and the crow makes wing to the rooky wood, dark birds, dark night. Even the short piece, there is animal imagery, light dark imagery, masking of the personified pity, blood imagery, destruction, and dark birds. By this, his desire has replaced her. Ironically, the desire she wanted to create in him, that she wanted to put there, has replaced her. Well, Nemesis, the goddess, is always around. She's superfluous and ends in suicide. The paired relations continue in strife. There are paired relationships here. Banquo and Macbeth, we've seen that. Macbeth and Lady Macbeth, we've seen that. Macbeth and Macduff, it's coming after the death of Banquo. And Macbeth and Malcolm at the very end. Ultimately, Macbeth and the entire country He fought and killed to be the King of Scotland, and the whole country abjures him, and he's afraid of it. Horrible tragic, horrible irony there, dramatic irony. First, Banquo will pay the ultimate price for conscience after Macbeth, and Macbeth tempts him with, "It shall make honor for you if you do what I want you to do." If Banquo would be malleable, he rebuffs the author. "So I would lose none, that is honor. So I lose no honor in seeking to augment it, but still keep my bosom franchised and allegiance clear. Duty, pyramid, is my first call." That is honor. His offer of career failed, so the tyrant wants the executive, the next in line, to be corrupted, so he will do his bidding. I'm thinking today of some historical examples from closer in our time, and you can too. His offer of career failed. He stands alone. Thereupon, the isolated Macbeth falls into a psychotic vision of the dagger of the mind. That's when he sees, that's the dagger image with the blood on it. False creation, his mind plummets. He hasn't killed the king yet. He's about to. Nor is Lady Macbeth, we see weaknesses, they're chipping away at the old block. Nor is Lady Macbeth indomitable. That which has made them drunk, that's the grooms, hath made me bold. She had to have a little tipple before she got into this. What hath quenched them hath given me fire. And she had a moment of conscience. Had he not resembled my father as he slept, I had done it. I can't kill Daddy. There is a soul left that's bugging her. Her self-created platform is rotting. In Act 2, Scene 2, their erratic dialogue tells us they are crumbling even to the point of Macbeth's imagination taking his reason prisoner. As Banquo had warned, with Duncan's blood, the filthy witness on his hands, he rants that Neptune's ocean will turn totally red. That's a lot of water. With the washing of the king's blood. The multitudinous seas incarnadine. That means to make red, like the picture of bloody meat, incarnadine. Carne is meat. With immediate regret, he adds, "To know my deed, 'twere best not know myself. Wake, Duncan, with thy knocking, I would thou couldst." His overwhelming imagination will be his doom, for that is the essence of his tragic flaw. So, the regal corpse, right, is discovered. And I just want to redo this one again. In the humanity line, we've just gotten rid of the king. I'm sorry, it's in reverse. We've just gotten rid of the king. So that is cut off from the grace of God that has come down. This rest of the human part is in darkness. It cannot have grace because the divinely anointed has been destroyed. And Macduff says it out loud. You'll get it. The powers of darkness now can come up. And they do. Destroys the country. But Macduff comes back, having seen the bloody gashes and the king is dead. He says confusion. That's chaos, right? This is all now chaos and confusion. Confusion now hath made his masterpiece. Most sacrilegious murder hath broke ope the Lord's anointed temple. This is all religion. It is the metaphysical construct of the universe. Stole thence the life of the building. So the religious language puts it as sacral. Earlier, when the war and the blood was being spilled for the good cause, we would memorize another Golgotha. The blood was sacred, and salvation and resurrection and all of those things. Not now. The life of the building is gone. That's the divine right of kings, which is not really a Scottish thing. But James is now in England. It's an English thing. and it is a French thing. It has come from Europe. The Scottish have their own identity and their own culture quite apart. But James is now watching the play in England as the English king. It's a dual crown. It doesn't unite until 1707 under Queen Anne, I think. Anyway. His soul will degrade. From this instant, there's nothing serious in mortality. Banquo has come into the court. Macduff has just given that great announcement. Macbeth has come in and says, now there's a double hearing on this. Is this Macbeth acting the role that Lady Macbeth acted when Duncan arrived, or is there some kind of depth here that you will see? And there's a double hearing, a double entendre. From this instant, there's nothing serious in mortality, he says to the gathered thanes. All is but toys. Renown and grace is dead. I think he's speaking from the heart, but it sounds right in the context. It's a double hearing. The wine of life is drawn. Think Eucharist. And the mere lees is left to brag of. It's all waste. It will get there. Big time. Probably he slays the grooms, claiming love for Duncan. The hell, get those witnesses out of the way. We didn't do it. What the hell? We were drunk, right? Can't have that. Get rid of anyone who can go. That is the role of the tyrant. Get rid of any opposition. Hitler did it. Lotz did it. Idi Amin did it. And I won't continue. You can make up your own. Witnesses must go. And with this chaos ensuing, Malcolm, the Prince of Cumberland, destined for the kingship, abandons the state with his brother. They're getting out of town. So the kingdom is adrift. The rightful heir is gone. He flees to England, Malcolm, and Donald May goes to Ireland. And the English court will come back into the play later on. So the common man is often used in Shakespeare to give a kind of news report. The kingdom is deeply affected, and we have two gentlemen commenting on how is it going in the kingdom. By clock 'tis day, and I kind of messed up this line earlier. By the clock 'tis day, and yet dark night strangles the traveling lamp. By clock 'tis day. Dark night is strangling. Notice the image of murder. The strangling the traveling lamp. So you have that reversal, the murderous image, a reversal of good and evil, and this pathetic fallacy, which says how things have flipped. Animal power is inverted. And he says, this common man, on Tuesday last, a falcon, big bird, towering in her pride of place, was by a mousing owl hawked at and killed. The big bird was killed by the little bird. Before, the little couldn't kill the big. Remember, dismayed not this Banquo and Macbeth. With the hare and the lion, proper order, and the swallow and the eagle. Not now. The little mousing owl killed huge falcon, towering in her pride of place. Reversal of nature. Nature is inverted. Light, dark is inverted. Is it an eclipse or what have you? So the standoff between Banquo and Macbeth comes up in Act 3, Scene 1. And Banquo says, thou hadst it now, King, Cawdor, Glamis, all. He's now king in Act 3, Scene 1. As the weird women promised, and I fear thou playedst most foully for it. And Macbeth knows this guy, I haven't got him, and he knows too much. He was there with the witches. He knows too much. So he must be commanded to dinner. You fail not our feast. You're coming to dinner, you're from far away, you're going to be on the open road on a horse. Macbeth's fear of Banquo is not physical, it's moral. In his royalty of nature, he says, reigns that which would be feared. 'Tis much he dares. And to that dauntless temper of his mind, he hath a wisdom that doth guide his vower to act in safety. That's the worst part. There is none but he whose being I do fear. And that's going to be ironic because there's going to be more. But he thinks at this point, I'll get Banquo in the way and I'm fine. Having obviously pre-planned the event, he immediately meets the murderers, whom he treats as equals. Well, they are, in a sense, aren't they? He grapples you, speaking to the murderers, I grapple you to the heart and the love of us, who wear our health but sickly in this life, which in his death were perfect. Go kill him. So his health depends on Banquo's death, the good man. The moral point is obvious. In the Banquo scene, Banquo ironically and ghoulishly attends. Macbeth is fragmented into a quivering mass. Guilt, horror. They would have believed in ghosts. James I wrote a book on the demonology, and all these ghosts and spirits would exist. The scene is pivotal and almost completes the hero's debilitation, for at this point he loses Scotland. The banquet is the big celebration for him at his castle. Wow, all the things have come in order and announced, and you've seen the movies of these royal people and their pretensions and their wonderful, wonderful regalia and clothing and what have you. But he sees Banquo's ghost. His hallucination of Banquo's ghost so disturbed the affair that the mirth is absolutely destroyed. They don't know what's going on. What is the matter with him? Of course, Macbeth tries to make us feel, well, he has these little fits, but they're really nothing. We have medication. Don't worry about it. So after rounds of loyalty, it cannot be saved any longer, and Lady Macbeth knows it. She says to him, you have displaced the mirth, broke the good meeting with most admired disorder, you fool. The hostess is desperate. So, in spite of the ritual that would go on in this courtly scene, she throws them out. No order, no pomp, no good night, no nothing. She simply kicks them out. So the order at the top of the section of the hierarchy of Scotland is now destroyed. It's metaphor, but destroyed. Stand not upon the order of your going, but go at once. Scotland will never be recovered. All of Scotland is suspect. So we get Macbeth has gone, Macduff rather, we find out, has gone to England to meet with Malcolm in the court of St. Edward the Confessor. Isn't that wonderful? That's England. But we get a lord giving us the summary of where they are in this country. The son of Duncan, it's the news. This is the newspaper. The son of Duncan, from whom this tyrant holds due of birth, lives in the English court and is received of the most pious Edward with such grace that the malevolence of fortune nothing takes from the high respect. Thither Macduff is gone to pray the holy king upon his aid to wake Northumberland and warlike seaward, that by the help of these, with him above, we're going to have some grace here, with him above to ratify the work, we may again, and here is Scotland, give to our tables meat, there's famine, sleep to our nights, insomnia, free from our feasts and banquets bloody knives, there may be murder and crime, do faithful homage, get the rightful order back, and receive free honours all which we pine for now. And this hath so exasperated the king, that's Edward the Confessor, by the way, that he prepares for some attempt of war. There's help coming. Scotland's state of decay, and we are reminded in Act 2, Scene 4 of the line, from Act 2, Scene 4 of the line, thriftless ambition that will raven up thine own life's means. Macbeth has lost the country with thriftless ambition. The phantasmagoria explodes in Act 4, Scene 1. With the witches' incantations, demonic imagery loads the imagination. The animal imagery dominates as they throw a myriad of organics into the bubbling, called toads, snails, all the snakes, da 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 da. All it and the verse becomes demonic, which not Elizabeth, the Stuart period would have believed in. Reference to doubling, nihilism, the wind, water, storms, earthquakes, and life, and the like will destroy all that is holy and life-giving. And he goes to see the witches to get more, and he says, I will have an answer from you. He still believes in the veracity of the witches. Even till destruction sicken. Even till destruction gets sick of destruction. What? Where have you seen that? Answer me to what I ask you is reminiscent of Ross's earlier statement about the spending of life's means. Thriftless ambition, raven up life's means. The lines are all connected. It's a matrix, a spiral, if you will. So, when he goes to see the witches, he sees first an armed head. It appears, beware Macduff. Right? The armed head, by the way, is not. But then he sees a baby born, and he says, beware Macduff, beware the Thane of Fife. Then he says, the second bloody child. Macduff, as we learned, was not born of woman. He was born of cesarean. Well, that, not born of woman, everybody's born of woman. It's a riddle. The equivocation of the fiend. Third, a crowned child with a tree in his hand leading to Malcolm's charging Macbeth's castle under the camouflage of trees. Birnam Wood comes to Dunsany. That'll never happen. Trees can't walk. Finally, Macbeth is shown a line of kings where Macbeth sees Banquo's issue finally taking the throne. Apparently, there's some connection between James I and Banquo, but I've never followed it. As predicted. And he says, earlier, this reminds me, though in Act 1, Scene 3, the witches have said, thou shalt get kings, though thou be none. So now we see the line of kings. And Macbeth says in Act 3, Scene 1, for Banquo's issue have I defiled, or filed with a metal scratchy thing, filed my mind. For them the gracious Duncan have I murdered, put rancors, poison in the vessel of my peace, only for them, and mine eternal jewel, my soul, given to the common enemy of man, which is Satan. He knows what he's done. So what's he going to do? Eradicate any possibility. Macduff's gone to England, I'll get you. Kills the family. Infanticide. It doesn't get much lower. The firstlings of my heart shall be the firstlings of my hand. I'll just do it. Devil take the hindmost, or all of it. So, did Shakespeare intend the witches to be real, or the materialization of his driving imagination? And that's often a debate. Is most of it imagined, or are they real? How would you, if you were doing the play, or you do it in your high school play, you do it at university, whatever, how would you present them? Crazy old hags, or do you want the whole lugubrious devil spirit preternatural event? You have fun doing it. So he is now existentially isolated. He has nothing. So the end of the play, we're almost done. The end of the play comes, and he's so low, he finally admits, I have begun to doubt. When the Birnam Wood, he has to challenge Macduff, and the trees start walking, and he finally says, I begin to doubt the equivocation of the fiend that lies like truth. Finally, you realize you've been had by your own imagination and just by the ramblings of some crazy old ladies. Wow, that's quite a distance. So what you have in the end is something that the old classicists would call catharsis. And I think I mentioned it at the beginning, but the catharsis is some sort of, you're caught between pity for him because you've followed this guy. You've lived with his mind. Oh my God. And there is a conscience there that he deserves. What are you doing? Do we do that when we're naughty? How human this is in the extreme. But also the fear and the horror. The horror of his action, the horror of his mind, we recoil from. Infanticide. So when you leave the theater, this confusion of emotions creates what the classics would have called catharsis. So that mixture. But what does he do at the very end? Just to give you the pity, just a little bit. He says, arm and out. Come wind, come rack, at least we'll die with harness on our back. He goes out to face his adversary like as the man he used to be, like valorous minion, but he's not fighting for anything valorous anymore. He's fighting simply to a rediscovery of some little bit of self. So he has been reduced. He's been castrated by his bullying wife. He's destroyed the unity of the formerly admiring Thanes by destroying the country's safety and security. He's been led to destruction by phantasmagoria. He's destroyed the overwhelming imagination, and that all is left is nihilism. A tale told by full of sound and fury, told by an idiot full of sound and fury, signifying nothing. Out, out, brief candle, life's but a walking shadow. That's what he's left with. But he does put on the harness and go, I will try the last, he says. Some respect must be due. However, in the conclusion, he recovers a vestige of his former self, and he goes out and says, I think in a very significant speech, he says, I will not yield to kiss the ground before young Malcolm's feet, and to be baited with the rabble's curse, though Burnham would be come to Dunsinane, and thou opposed. Being of no woman born, he says to Macduff, yet I will try the last. Before my body I throw my warlike shield. Lay on, Macduff, and damned be him that first cries, hold enough. So there's a reconstitution of the condemned man and the self-condemned man. Not a spiritual redemption, certainly, but a recovery of the original Thane, the valor's minion. Not quite, but there is valor. So we end with confusion. How do you feel? How do you identify and cheer such a monster? So God's rightful order at the end, of course, is restored. Malcolm is on the throne. There'll be peace in the land. The good guys won. Evil is gone. But the play speaks to the darker parts of our nature. What are you left with as the curtain closes? A murder plot with classical leanings, a morality tale, a psychiatrist's banquet, an insight into tyranny, a damn good narrative with intense action. It's probably the most popular play taught in high school of Shakespeare's. A piece reflecting the early 17th century, the Renaissance, and whatever else the theater goer might bring to it. You must take it personally, and you had my interpretation. Have your own. But I hope this gives you a few threads to knit your own interpretation with. Somehow the drama has been deeply personal. No wonder it is probably the most studied play in Jimmy. And it always goes over. It's actually a brilliant piece of work.